now we're talking to Master Sergeant retired Teddy Lanier. Master Sergeant Lanier is going to talk to us a little about the opiate addiction problem amongst the veterans. Thank you for joining us, Teddy.
Thanks, Dr. Drew. Thanks for having me on. Been a big fan for a long time now.
That's very kind. And you're involved with Warriors Heart Foundation.
That's correct, sir. I'm one of the on the board of advisors for Warriors Heart Foundation. I actually went through their program a little over 2 years ago. I went down there in April and did what I had to do. Got straightened up, put a solid year in, and was asked to be on the board. And that's kind of what I do outside of my normal scope of duties or my normal job.
And tell us your story, how you got to the point where you needed help and what was going on.
You know, it's funny. I speak about addiction and alcoholism, drug addiction and alcoholism, quite frankly, and it's it's been a big part of my life as far as I can remember back into my teenage years. And I talk about how as a teenager in the '80s, it was there was a lot out there to do, and I did it all. And I never really thought too much about it. Joined the military in the late '80s. Started, drinking was an everyday part of my life. And the drinking was very heavy throughout the 90s. But the funny thing that happened to me was I remember right before Desert Storm, I had dental surgery, and I was given an opiate medication. And like remembering the effects of the first drink or drug that I ever took, I really remember what that first opioid did to me. And it's something that changed my life forever. Didn't think too much of it, but I knew that was a life-changing event. Somewhere in the 90s, I'd broken an ankle while I was in the military. Got a Percocet prescription by this time. And once again, I remember what that feeling was. It was the most amazing thing in the world. 99.
That, by the way, for those of you who take opiates and feel bad on them or feel nothing on them, get a sense of how different that genetics are for somebody that feels like this is the solution to everything they've been looking for.
Absolutely. It's, I eventually had a third one in 99, and from the year 2000, I saw to it that whether I needed one or lied to get one, I stayed on an opiate medication for the next 17 years. And if I didn't do it legally, I did everything I could illegally to maintain that high. It was opiates to me were a catalyst to feeling good 120% of the time. And there was something that was an everyday occurrence in my life up until about April 16th of 2017.
What got through to you? Why did you finally decide to do something about it?
I tell this story a lot, Dr. Drew. I'm a military man, retired military man. I did 22 years, and I tell this story about professionally and personally. I guess I'm defined as what's called a high-functioning alcoholic addict. And, all my life professionally, to include my years in high school playing football, you couldn't touch me professionally. It was personally my personal life that I kept hidden from everybody that was such a train wreck. And in my mind, I thought, well, if I could just keep those things separated and never have my personal life affect my professional life, I think I'm going to be okay. And that only goes on for so long. I spoke about this a lot. Eventually, the heart and the soul can only take so much. The body, the physical, can only take so much. And somewhere in late February, March of 2017, I talk about how I woke up and I felt weird. I felt off. I go on to say that I talked to some friends at work, and I just felt tired. And I talk about it wasn't sleepy tired. I felt tired. The day goes on. And remember, I've got this persona about professional and personal. I'm not going to fail at my job, and I never did. And that later on that afternoon, doing some shooting instruction, I went to stroke my gun, and I couldn't pull the trigger. For the first time in almost 30 years, I couldn't do my job. And I knew right then and there that personal life and professional life had finally collided.
And let me just say that for males, not females, but for male addicts, when the employment is affected, that's often a bottom.
And let me just kind of toot your horn a little bit, Teddy. This is Leeann Tweeden here. Teddy not only was, just a retired master sergeant, he was Delta Force. We're talking special operations. We're talking best of the best. Mm-hmm. So think about that.
Yes, ma'am. I did 10 years in the regular Army and 12 years in Special Forces. I was not in Delta Force. I was in Special Forces.
Special Forces, yes. You're Green Beret?
Yes, ma'am.
And thank you for your service. And I know, my husband's a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force. He's a C-130 pilot. And I know that military men and women are some of the, the most brave and are so proud of the job that they do. And I know, I know people on the board of Warrior's Heart, and the suicide rate, the addiction rate of our veterans is it's heartbreaking. It's almost embarrassing that it's like we trying to reach out to them, and you still see the suicide rates are so high. How are we not getting to them? What more can we do, even just as the public? What more can we do to help?
I tell you, I think about that often, and for me, and I'll speak from my experience. I had reached a point where I don't think there was anything medically that could be done for me. I think there was some medical assistance that helped me.
Yeah.
But for me, and just my own experience, I'm very big in Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with that being said, for me, 12-step program of recovery worked and works for me.
Hey, Teddy, you don't have to apologize for mutual aid
You
society.
say that works a lot, right?
It is now. There's a Cochrane analysis showing that if abstinence is your goal, that is your most effective treatment to employ. So you don't need to apologize for 12-step. Come on now.
It works.
I'd apologize. Again, I just want to speak for myself, because a lot of times I can get misconstrued as I'm some type of big AA book thumper, and quite frankly,
I got you.
I just know the program.
I got you.
But as far as external things out there, as long as there's a level of of funding at the national level as it pertains to treatment, I think as long as, and for veterans, for military, and even for your first responders, as long as there is insurance policies in place that do not discriminate against somebody who is trying to make that step and get help through a treatment center, I think as long as we can maintain those parameters, I think we're going to be just fine. I also believe that acceptance is the key. I believe that it is a unfortunate thing, but it happens. I firmly believe I was genetically disposed to alcoholism and drug addiction.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
And I firmly believe that it is indeed a disease. And as long as we can maintain that level and still receive the support that is needed nationwide, I think we've got a chance at this thing. However, it's about getting in. For me, it's about getting into this program. It is a life-changing event. And I have to attack this with the same tenacity that I did in my professional life.
Right. Or your life depends upon it, as does your relationships,
Absolutely.
your family, and your career. But we were talking this morning, we were talking about homelessness and getting homeless addicts into treatment. Many of them are veterans as well. And it's you can't force people into treatment. You have to leverage them into it, bring them to it. And there's this data out there that shows a physician, this emergency room study they did where they had doctors give addicts that came to the emergency room pamphlets and education about 12-step and where the meetings are, what you do, and what it's like, versus having somebody like Teddy show up, shake their hand, and go, "I'll see you at the meeting tonight." The conversion rate to meeting, what do you figure, Teddy, how many people went to meetings with the pamphlets and the education? What percentage?
I would,
Zero?
I'm afraid not. Yeah, probably not many at all.
It was zero.
Yeah.
And with the warm handshake, it was 100%.
Oh, wow.
Zero versus 100.
Dr. Drew, that's that relation thing, because again, and I'm not discrediting the medical field, the clinician field whatsoever, and what they do is amazing. But at the end of the day, the only way I'm going to relate to anyone as it pertains to addiction and alcoholism is to talk to another alcoholic or drug addict.
Yep.
And again, I know I'm not telling you nothing that you don't already know, but it's, for the first year of my sobriety, one of my goals in my mission for my life, I saw a psychiatrist for a year, and I firmly believe in things of that nature.
Of course.
However, when it pertains to my sobriety and my clean time, it is all about the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous for me. And because there's a huge relation piece there to be able to share my experience, strength, and hope. It's just a relatable piece. You know what I mean? And I think that is so vital. If individuals would just give it a shot instead of turning away, because a lot of people get weird about the whole AA/NA thing, and quite frankly, it's the most amazing thing I've ever been a part of.
Yep, and I've seen the miracles that
You say it all the time, Dr. Drew.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
See it all the time. And it's, the other thing you point out in you're describing your current treatment is a nice sort of framing of the fact that you have two or three sometimes different things. One is your addiction, that's managed over here. You have your psychiatric, which could be PTSD and mood disturbances, that's here.
TBI,
You may have some. You may have some earlier, more delicate kinds of things that need psychotherapy for, and each of these are different treatments for different things. You can't treat the addiction with the other two. You treat the addiction with the addiction treatment. It's like trying to treat diabetes with antibiotics. You don't do that.
Exactly. And that was the most amazing thing about Warrior's Heart is because while we worked on the addiction piece, we worked on the mild TBI and the untreated PTS. And I'm here to tell you, I was very surprised at just how being sober affects, in a positive way, those other two areas. Because until I get my body clean, nothing is going to work for PTS and TBI treatment.
Right, and we can't do it. We can't treat you unless the sobriety, unless the abstinence at least is in hold. And abstinence by itself without sobriety is a pretty uncomfortable state. So it also makes it difficult.
Absolutely. It's funny, some of the EMDR treatment and things of that nature, we talk about, war, the horrors of war. And again, I'm not going to sit here and claim to be someone who has, stacked them up and hundreds of body counts and all this. I've done what I've had to do. I was quicker on the trigger than most, and I'm alive to tell about it, and I'm alive to do it with my family. However, there was an incident where life had to be taken in which no human being, and I mean this, no human being should have died in that manner. And that, I didn't know how to deal with that. I didn't know how to process that. And the only way I did was I buried it with drugs and alcohol. And the beautiful thing about Warrior's Heart is they showed me how to process that trauma, to not to forget it, but to put it in an area in my brain of which I can manage it. And today I can speak freely about it. It does not destroy me like it used to.
Yeah, that's how our brains work. When things are shattering, we wall it off, we put it somewhere else, and so it's unregulated. It doesn't have access to the other systems, including consciousness oftentimes. And so in order to regulate it, you have to bring it back in with the rest of your brain systems. It's not about remembering it so much as regulating it, the emotions associated with it.
Incredible.
Yeah. Well, listen, we appreciate your service. We appreciate you talking
And if somebody wants to be part of Warrior's Heart, how do they find you? How do they reach out?
Warrior's Heart is obviously the website. Go to the website, Warrior's Heart Foundation, or Warrior's Heart. The number is on the website. We found on social media, both Instagram and Facebook. And if you need to, come to my Facebook page and hit me up. I'll get you where you need to go. Because like I said before, there's absolutely nothing I won't do within my power to pass this gift to the next person.
Right. That is how this thing works, which is that, there are not enough therapists and trained people on earth to do what the recovery community does. There just aren't enough.
For each other.
Yeah, because he Sergeant Lanier, stays sober by giving back. That's part of his program. And it's a joy to do it because he knows somebody did it for him.
Right.
Am I putting words in your mouth?
No, negative. Absolutely not, Dr. Drew. And again, you're exactly right. Tom Spooner, I'm sure, has been a catalyst in my recovery.
Yes.
I spoke to him just a while ago. Me and him are very well close connected, and he had some of the greatest advice in the world to me a little over 2 years ago, and I lived through that advice even with every breath I take of every day.
Yeah, he was just in here a few months ago with us.
Yes, he was.
Fantastic.
All right,
with
Master Sergeant Teddy Lanier.
Again, just to verify, it is www.warriorsheart.com.
Warriors Heart. It's the Warriors Heart Foundation at warriorsheart.com. Is that correct?
No, www.warriorsheart.com. And then you get to the foundation through there.
I got it. Okay.
Excellent.
All right. Thank you, sir. We appreciate it, and we appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, and thank you for your service.
No, absolutely, guys. Thank you so much for having me on, and let me know if there's anything I can do for you or anybody else out there.
It is our privilege. Thank you so much, sir.
All right. Have a good day.
And our number